What's up, people? This is Nature Girl 30 here, and as you can see, yeah, I'm a little bundled up because I'm a bit under the weather. Or actually, I'm just more like cold, but either or. I don't really usually do a video on this because I actually enjoy TNA sometimes, and I actually just watch it out of a guilty pleasure, and I don't do reviews on it. And I know I haven't done reviews in a while, period. But after seeing tonight's show, I gotta say something about this. I mean, even though it's not really, like, I gotta speak, but anyway, what I mean by this is that, what is happening to TNA? Like, I really used to enjoy that show because that show was really innovative and creative, and it went against the grain from what the WWE and any other wrestling company did, and that's what really made me enjoy it. It went outside the box. It was unforgiving. It didn't censor itself, and that's the one thing that I actually liked about TNA. Not to mention the fact that they had probably one of the best knockout divisions, or best women's division that I ever seen. And the knockouts actually did have decent storylines and decent feuds. But now I gotta be honest, I really don't know what's happening with TNA. It was so boring, and for the last show that was actually on, it was pretty boring still. I mean, the matches are okay, but it just seems that the dialogue and the backstage scenes are just meh. And not to mention that the openers aren't really anything to really care about. And the fact is that if you have Jeff Hardy, someone who was extremely popular at the time in WWE, you would honestly think that you would care if he's a champion. But for some strange reason, it seems to me that it's all about Austin Aries or Bobby Roode. And I really think they made a horrible mistake actually making him the champion, because nobody really cares. And I know they're really trying to make Jeff Hardy a face, but he was better off not being in a face. He's an enigma. When you're an enigma, you don't really know or can predict how a person really is. You can't really follow how they are because how they are is a mystery. For some strange reason, Jeff Hardy is no longer an enigma. He was an enigma back in the WWF days, WWE, but he's absolutely predictable now. And it's just bothersome. I love Jeff Hardy because of his creativity, originality, and the way that he literally went against the grain of how wrestlers usually are. But it just seems like he's so predictable, and I just don't like him being a face because he is that predictable. But my biggest gripe of them all, and this is a faction that I really had high hopes for, was the Aces and Eights. The Aces and Eights, I love them for the fact is because they were all about anonymity. They were all about keeping their faces a secret. They were all about you not knowing exactly what they were going to do next. You would go out there, and every single Thursday, every single time you would watch Impact, you would never know who they were going to strike, why they were going to strike them. And the biggest top of them all for the entire storyline was who was behind the Aces and Eights. Who was the VP? Who was the guy that was leading the charge? We would never really know. But then as soon as they revealed Devon to be the guy that was a part of the Aces and Eights, it just tanked from there. And the reason why is because they lost their anonymity. When they first made that reveal, even though it was mediocre at best, that pretty much gave you the secret on the inner workings of the Aces and Eights. That gave away a lot. It's no longer a mystery. They're losing their appeal. They're losing their fear factor. That what made them so interesting to watch was just the fact that you really didn't know what was going to happen. You really didn't know who was a part of the Aces and Eights. That anonymity is what made them. And after hearing the night, the announcer was like, well, it's all about the mask. Their anonymity is important to them. So if that's the case, then why on earth do they have two unmasked people going around claiming that they're the members of the Aces and Eights? And then you just unmask someone tonight. The thing about it is, when you unmask someone, just like, I'm going to use a luchador, for example. When you unmask a luchador considers their mask a part of them. It considers a part of their essence, what makes them who they are. And when they lose that mask, you don't see them anymore. Seriously. When they, like, for example, Rey Mysterio, if he unmasks himself in front of millions of people, that will be the last time you would ever see Rey Mysterio around being Rey Mysterio. The only way that he'll still be wrestling is if he reinvents himself, like what Hunico did. And Hunico, when he reinvented himself until that I guess the Latino thug or whatever, when he was actually the evil Sin Cara, you didn't even know he was the evil Sin Cara until he started speaking about it. But when he unmasked himself, he covered his face, and the only way he can continue wrestling is if he actually did reinvent himself. But in this case with the Aces and Eights, they're parading around like they don't have any mask on, like it's okay, like it's normal, like, oh my gosh, I'm still the member of the Aces and Eights, we're going to still be tough, we're going to still take you out. Yeah, and then you recruit Mr. Kennedy. No surprise there. I mean, Mr. Kennedy really wasn't a total face. He was kind of a borderline. I can't even say he was an anti-hero. He was on the border. He didn't know what he wanted to be. But now you recruit him for him to do absolutely nothing. Not to mention the fact there was really no mystery behind it. And there was no surprise behind the fact that he joined the Aces and Eights. It's just, I feel like the TNA is really starting to become a little lazy when it comes to their storylines and factions. Sure, the WWE is tanking right now. Their storylines are lackluster and mediocre at best. Their 3 hours is pathetic, and you're practically potty breaks. Yes, I said potty. Sorry, I have a nephew. But anyway, the thing about it is, it's definitely like bathroom breaks. It's times when you literally go out and, I mean, they're break time shows. That's what it is. It's a break time in the middle for the second half. And I hate to say it, I fell asleep for the last TNA. That has never happened to me ever. And I almost fell asleep this time. The thing about it is, I was too big, and not only did I not, like, fall asleep, I came close to, like, literally changing the channel. But instead, I was entertained by actually playing a game on my tablet. But either or, what is happening to my TNA? What is happening to the Aces and Eights? What is happening to my show? I love this show. I love everything about it. But for some reason, and the biggest thing, the biggest pet peeve that I had was the fact that Hulk Hogan, for the very longest, was anti-Vince McMahon. Especially after what happened with the lawsuit 20 years ago. But now, he's becoming Vince McMahon. He is Vince McMahon because that's something that he actually would do. That's something that he's done in his own family, on his own show, on TV. It's been done. What is going on with Hulk Hogan? I loved him because of his originality. I love the fact that he wanted to go against the grain. I love the fact that he wanted to bring TNA to the stratosphere, to possibly rub it in the face of Vince. But he's becoming him. Not only does he hire his daughter to actually take over the Knockouts, he put her in a major love line, storyline, and then he fires her and Bully Ray, the most entertaining guy on the entire show, the guy that I actually look forward to watching every day. Gosh, look, I'm a WWE fan to the end. Don't get me wrong. I will always be a mark for that brand. But it's to the point where you're like, enough is enough. I'm tired of the copycats. I like TNA because when WWE was lackluster and lame, you got TNA to back you up because they were completely different. They went against the grain. They were not afraid. They were unafraid and they unapologized or unapologetic, whatever the word is. They did not care what people thought. They did what they had to do and they did it with style and class, and I loved it for that. But they're becoming the WWE, and that is what's pissing me off. And it just makes me so mad that this show could have been better. But for the second time in a row, it's getting worse. And we've seen this with the WWE. When you see two shows that are bad, the third one's going to be bad too, and you're going to have to cut out on this one too. What's going to happen with the wrestling business? Like, is this going to happen with everything in wrestling? Or maybe it's just because I'm pissed off at tonight's show and I'm thinking everything bad right now. But anyway, I want to hear what you guys have to hear about this. I know my rant is random, but what do you think about TNA? Do you think TNA is tanking? Do you think it's probably like a slow spell for them? Or do you think there's a little bit of hope for them? And for the Aces and Eights, do you think they're pretty much, the whole storyline with the Aces and Eights is pretty much deceased, gone, finito? Or do you think there's a little hope for them? I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. Leave your comments in the comment section below and send me a video response. Because right now I am highly pissed. And I really hope that next week's show is a lot better. This is Nature Girl 30 signing off. Peace. Later.